Dr. Disrespect's game Deadrop is currently in a playable pre-alpha state, and recently I've been playing the game so I could show you all gameplay and give you my first impressions, so if you haven't had a chance to play, you can understand how the game works and what it looks like. And if you're interested in more Deadrop coverage as well as coverage of the overall looter shooter genre, make sure to sub to the channel. But kicking it off, if you don't know, Deadrop is a vertical extraction looter shooter, so basically think of DMZ or Tarkov, but this is a more vertical map. All these different levels and tiers provide for a very big difference in gunplay and overall a big variance to gameplay if you're used to other looter shooter games. The game is tentatively set to be released in 2024, although this can be changed depending on how development goes. But without wasting any time, let's hop right into my impressions and my overall feel of the game after playing. Just to give you an overall view on how the game feels, looks, and if I think it's promising, I've played games like DMZ, like Escape from Tarkov, like the Cycle Frontier, and overall I can see the promise and the future in Deadrop. As I said, this is a pre-alpha early access, so this is literally just a bare bones of the game when it comes to movement, guns, maps. There are no missions or anything like that. It's literally just drop in, fight, try to extract, and that's all. But based on what we have so far, I can see this having a very promising future, and it definitely can stake its claim in the looter shooter genre, which seems to be set to blow up in 2023. Now first, let's talk about some of the things that I think can be changed or improved. Starting off, similarly to a lot of these games in a genre like this, your footsteps are very, very loud in this game. It feels like you can hear people a mile away, and actually the directional audio is pretty good in this game, especially given as it's a vertical shooter. There is a lot of tiers and levels above and below you depending on where you are on the map, so you can actually tell where people are for the most part. I would say overall the footsteps do need to be lowered a bit. I think it's very hard to run around in this game without being heard, and that brings me into my next point, which is because this is a looter shooter game, right, where the objective is to not die and to get out with your loot, people already tend to play slower, which makes sense obviously for the genre. But with the footsteps being loud, this also increases the other players to wanting to play slow and really increases the amount of campers or people sitting up with snipers that you'll find around the map. Now obviously in a looter shooter game there are different types of play styles. You can be someone who just runs around, although it's a much more risky play style for a genre like this, and there's obviously going to be people who camp and play slow and kind of crouch around the map. It's, you know, it's expected if you've played games like Tarkov or DMZ, but with how loud the footsteps are in this game and how far away you can hear other players running, a lot of players will play really slow, won't be very mobile, and that can make the game feel a bit slow and overall make it not too rewarding if you want to run around and fight. Another thing I've noticed with the game is you tend to spawn super close to other players. I've literally had games where I have spawned in and died within 10 to 15 seconds of me first spawning into another player. Now honestly, I haven't figured out if you're spawning into a game midway through a session or if everyone's spawning in at the same time into a new lobby, because I've run into players with guns, but obviously this is an extraction game, so you can load in with an assault rifle even though I only have a pistol. But I've literally spawned in and died within 10 to 15 seconds to a fully geared player, so there definitely needs to be some work done on the spawns. The map overall seems pretty big, and I think for, you know, I think it's like 20 to 30 players on a map. It might even be closer to 20. Definitely need to spread out the spawns a bit. I think when talking about the gunplay, overall it actually feels pretty good, although there are some times where you might be close to a ledge or close to a railing where you're clearly not aiming at this railing, but your bullets are hitting it. So I do think they need to adjust some of the hitboxes on some of your surrounding environment, and overall it does seem to feel pretty good. I do like the gunplay and I think it's pretty fun, but there are plenty of times where I'm shooting at a guy clearly on my screen, my crosshair's right on him, and somehow I'm hitting the wall that like I'm head glitching over. So it definitely is a bit weird and maybe takes some getting used to. I don't know if that's how it's intended to play, but it can be a bit frustrating. Now I want to talk about some of the good things about this game, because there are a lot of good things, and like I said earlier in the video, I do think this has a very promising future when it comes to the looter shooter extraction genre. Like I said, with the gunplay, it does feel pretty good. The movement as well in this game does not feel that bad. I actually think the movement, like, first of all, I like that it's fast, although with the footsteps being loud, people still tend to play slow, but also it feels decently fluid. Overall, the game actually feels pretty smooth in my opinion. I think some of this can come down to, you know, your PC and your specs and just how the game runs on your rig, but I think overall the game feels pretty good. It feels pretty fluid, and it doesn't feel super clunky or even something you might expect out of a pre-alpha game. If you've played a game like Escape from Tarkov, the movement is very heavy, very clunky. I know the game tends to rely more on that realistic side of things, right? It is a very, you know, like almost like milsim type game, so you're gonna expect it to feel a little more realistic and heavy, but comparing it to that, this game feels very fast, very fluid, and much different. Another really cool little thing about this is you spawn into the game really fast. Obviously this can also have to do with your PC specs and things like that, but I mean, my PC is not top of the line. I built this 4 years ago and it still runs pretty good, and I load into games, you know, within like 10 seconds. As soon as finds that match, you're pretty much right in there. So that's actually really good. Another thing I really like is the color-coded looting system. If you've played Apex Legends, which is a game that I've played a ton of and I really like, the color-coded looting system where your guns and your ammo are certain colored based on their class and they match up together makes looting so much easier, and it just makes the game feel so much better when you're trying to loot, because if you see a gun that has the matching color ammo, you know what you're going to pick up when you're looking for a certain loot, and you're not looking around trying to see what everything is, because your brain is going to recognize the colors much quicker than it's going to recognize the little thumbnail image of you know, whatever weapon or ammo it is you're looking for, or by having to hover over with your mouse and look at every single item's name. I think one of the biggest things that I like about this game, and one of the reasons I say it has a super promising future, is the fact that this game is being built with its community. Midnight Society, which is the dev team working on this game, as well as Dr. Disrespect, are doing everything in the public. They're being totally transparent about the game development, always answering questions and taking community feedback. And I think that's something very different from what we see from a lot of developers, especially AAA developers in the current gaming, you know, ecosystem. If people try to make things behind closed doors, hope there's no leaks, and then, you know, do a big reveal for the game maybe a month or two before it comes out, and that's kind of how that works. But the way they're doing this with, first of all, a playable pre-alpha, and every snapshot version of this pre-alpha is going to be available all the way up until the game releases. So if you have the tower key or founder's pass, you can literally play the game as it's being developed, as it's being improved and changed, all the way up until it releases, through the alpha, through the beta, and then to the full release. So I think the way they're communicating with the community and taking our input is super cool, and another reason that I think this game can do really good in this genre going forwards. And I think other areas of the game which we have yet to see but we know are coming, such as your hideout, which is an area that you can customize. I believe we're all going to have like our own car in the hideout which you can customize, which is really cool. I think these sorts of things, as well as I'm sure they're going to be adding things like missions and traders going forward in the game, these sorts of things being added are going to make this a real competitor to Escape from Tarkov, and games like DMZ, which are targeting more of the casual audience, are going to have a hard time keeping up with the game like this, because it's going to provide more depth. Another little thing to throw in there that I really like about this game is all the different ways you can traverse the map. There's ladders all over the map. Obviously, this being a vertical map, you need ways to go up and down easily. So there's ladders, there's pipes you can climb, there's like bars around the sides of the map where you can like climb over the outskirt of the map, where like if you fell off, you would just completely drop into the abyss. But there's so many different ways to move vertically as well as horizontally, which is pretty interesting. And I think it provides a lot of different ways you can outplay people, although like I said, your movement is pretty loud, so it can be hard to make these plays if there is a player right by you. But I think there's a good opportunity here for them to add items into the game that maybe are certain like boots, or, you know, some sort of gear you can put on that lower your sound, or gloves that make it when you're climbing things you don't make as much noise. I think there's a big opportunity for that here. But overall, being as this game is a pre-alpha, right? I've said this in all my Deadrop videos, pre-alpha comes before alpha, it comes before the beta, and it comes way before the actual build of the game, the final build. So I think just being as how this game looks and feels right now, and so much improvements are going to be made, I think this game has a real possibility to stake its claim in the looter shooter extraction genre, especially as it's being led by a good dev team with Dr. Disrespect, who has a lot of experience with games and is a gamer himself. As well, they're being super transparent, building with the public, building with their player base. I think this game can do really big things. I believe the tower key sales are currently no longer available, so if you haven't picked up a tower key to be able to play the game, it doesn't look like you're going to be able to until maybe they launch more in the future. But you can sub to this channel to watch more gameplay, as well. Leave comments down below if you have any questions about the game. I can answer them. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.